Hey everybody, welcome back. We are continuing our knowledge of volume by finding the volume of composite shapes. Basically what we're doing is everything you guys have learned about volume, we're kind of taking it all, putting it together to solve some a little more difficult shapes, but basically it's not too tough. Here's some examples here. All it is that we're going to be finding volume of more than one shape. These are kind of put on top of one another. We're going to use our knowledge of pyramids and prisms to kind of get these problems correct. Pretty simple to do, takes a little bit longer. Let's get right into it. Okay, so here's your problem number one. If you're thinking, how do I solve the volume of that? Well, what you do is you break this down into two different 3D shapes. So I'm going to take this here and I'm going to make my little cut right there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to find two volumes. I'm going to find the volume of that top one. I'm going to find the volume of that bottom one. And we're just going to add them together. I think it's really good to have a pen and paper right now. So if you'd like to join me, we're going to solve this. These are both prisms. So you guys know we're going to solve the bottom one first, that bottom one. And we're going to say volume equals big B times H. Remember that big B stands for the area of the base. So we're going to say the base. You could say it's the basement, the very bottom here. I'm just going to say it's right here. It actually doesn't matter because it's the same thing as length times width times height. We're going to say that's the base right there because there's two sides, this side and this side. So I'm going to say that this is 2 times 1, pretty simple, times the height, and that is going to be that 4 there. You don't have to solve it like this. The height, if you want to say the height is 1, and the base is 4 times 2, that's perfectly fine too. Still going to give you the same answer. So volume equals 2 times that 4, and the volume of the bottom one is going to be 8 inches cubed. Now that's not going to be the correct answer because we still have to find this volume right here. So take a look at this volume. It doesn't give us a lot of information. We have to kind of look at our lengths on the bottom to determine the lengths on the top here. So I have this 1 here. I now have to find this length here. I need to find the base. So this is going to be 2. This is going to be 2. And this is going to be 2 right there. Okay. Next, I have to figure out what the height is. The height right here, well, if this entire thing is 3 right here, if that entire thing is 3, and I know that this is 1, then I know that 3 minus the 1 here is going to give us a 2 here. And so I know that is 2 because if this entire thing is 3, take away the 1, that's going to be a 2. And you guys can see if this is 1 here, because that's 1 right there, this is also going to be 1. So now we can solve this one. Again, I'm going to make this a little bit easier so you guys can see it. This is just like the base, which is 1 times that 2. So let's solve that one. Volume equals the area of the base times the height, because these are both prisms. Volume equals 1 times the 2. That's our base. Not the best looking base that I drew for you guys, but that's the base. 1 times 2. And we're going to multiply that by the height. The height is right here. We found that out. That's going to be 2. And when we solve this, 2 times 1 is 2, times that 2 is going to be 4 inches cubed. And all you have to do is you have to take these two together, 8 plus 4, and that's going to give you the composite volume. Composite volume. You're going to find the volume of both and just add it together. That's simple. A little bit difficult. We're going to do a number of examples here. So hopefully if you haven't caught on right now, you can catch on as we go along. Okay, let's take on the next one. We have 2 prisms here. This looks kind of like a pyramid, doesn't it? But it's not because it has 2 triangle faces. But we're going to start with the easy one, which is going to be this base right here. Let's make that base. You know what? I'm going to do it like I probably should on the first one. And I'm going to make this the base. Yeah, that's not half bad. That is not half bad. So volume equals the area of the base times the height, because it's prism, area of the base times height. And the base is going to be 16 times the 4. That's the area of the base. And we're going to multiply it by that height. That height, if you look at my cursor right there, is going to be 6. Let's put that right there. Times 6. And again, I don't mind if you use a calculator. I'm going to try to do this in my head. 4 times 6 is 24. Carry the 2. That's going to be 64. Times 6. Again, I don't mind if you use a calculator. 6 times 4 is 24. And 36, that should be 384 feet cubed. And again, all we did was we covered that rectangular prism. We're now going to take on this right here. I don't think you should do one big formula. I think you should break this down piece by piece. So volume equals, and it's going to be the area of the base times height. We're not going to use 1/3. A lot of people want to use 1/3 here, but this is a prism. It's a triangular prism. So that is the shape of the base. You guys can see that there's 2 of them, right? There's 2 of them, so it's got to be a prism. And let's first solve the area of that triangle, which is 1/2. The base is 12. And the height, you guys can see, is 9. That 9 right there is going to tell you this length right here, which is 9. So it's 1/2, 12 times 9. And the height is from this triangle here to the next triangle, which is going to be this length right here, which you guys can see is going to be 4. So that is our height. We can do this in our heads. Half of 12 is 6. 6 times that 9 is going to be 54. 54 times 4 is 16, 1, 20, 216 feet cubed. And then again, all you do is you break down. It's basically like finding 2 problems in one. And then in this case, if we're saying what's the volume of this, we're going to add this plus this. So I don't mind if you take your calculator out, 384 to make sure you're precise, plus the 216. That gives us an even, exact 600 feet cubed. And that's going to be our answer. Again, just very similar what we've learned this week and last week, and we kind of put it together to solve these problems. All right, let's take on the next one. So this one's going to look a little bit different. You notice that we have 2 volumes here, but do you notice how this is like a hole? It's like a giant hole that's been carved out of that. So we're going to need to find the volume of both, and instead of adding these together, we're going to subtract that cylinder that's inside. So very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the volume of that rectangular prism, that giant box right there. Volume is the area of the base times the height. And again, I'm going to take the base, which the base is going to be right here. Don't worry about that circle. Don't worry about it. Let's just find the entire area of this box right here, which is 10 by 14. Times the height here, which is going to be 12. And we're just going to add a 0 here. Times that 12. And we can use our calculator for this one. That's fine. And we get 1,680 inches cubed. Again, this is not going to be our answer because we just found the volume of the entire rectangular prism. Now we have to find this area of this, the volume of the cylinder, and we have to subtract. We have to take that out. Think of like a giant drill, drilling that giant hole in there. That's kind of what we did here. So we're going to find the volume equals the area of the base times height. Again, neither of these are pyramids. They're not pyramids. We haven't done that yet. So it's a cylinder. So the area of the base, take a look here, is a circle. It's a circle. Kind of looks like an oval, but I think it's just kind of like the way it looks. That's a circle. So you know the area of the base is pi r squared times the height. And feel free to follow along and try these out on your own. The radius is 2 squared times the height. And the height, if you guys can see, if this is 12 here, then that's got to be 12 there. If it goes all the way through, this height is 12. That's going to be 12 as well. Let's get my face out of the way, and let's solve this. So 2 squared is 4. 4 times the 3.14. I'm sorry, did I say 12? I meant to say 4. It is 4. I think that's what I said. And when you multiply that together, and you can throw all this in your calculator will do order of operations correctly. And that's going to be 12.56. And you multiply that by 12. So times 12. And this is going to give you 150.72. So what do you do from here? We have the volume of this giant rectangular prism, and we're cutting out, we're taking away that cylinder. So we have to take these two answers and we have to subtract. We have to take these two and let's subtract them. Let's take them away. You know, if you're doing it by hand, you want to line up those decimals, but we can, I don't mind if you throw it in a calculator. That's fine. And your final answer here, when you subtract that, should be 1,529.28, and that's going to be inches cubed. That's going to be our final answer. Let's just go back and double check we did our work right. Pi times r squared. I always like to just do this. So if you ever like take a test on this, I always like to kind of just throw in my calculator real quick just to make sure that I'm doing it right. And I just do it quickly in my calculator, make sure that it is correct. And we're good. Okay, now we have ourselves a pyramid. Okay, that tends to change up things. And again, I like to do this. Whenever I have a problem like this and it doesn't give me like those extra lines there, I think it helps to do that. You can even do that right there. Okay. So let's start with this rectangular, actually it's not a rectangular, it's a square prism. It's not a cube, but it's a square prism. Let's start with that one, this 5 by 5 by 8. And the area of the base, let's highlight that. In fact, let's do this as well. That base right there. Let's put that in blue. Man, this little pen thing is just a game changer. It's a game changer. And we're going to take that 5 times 5. That's the base. We multiply that by the height. The base is 25 times 8. You don't need a calculator here. Whenever you see that number 25, I want you to think of quarters. Think of if you have 8 quarters, how many is that? Well, 8 quarters will give you $2. Which is going to be 200 in this case. And you multiply that. So that gives you 200. That's not going to be our answer because now we have to find the volume of this pyramid. And this is where it gets a little tricky because you got to remember what the formula for a pyramid is. And if you remember, it should be volume equals 1/3 the area of the base times the height. We use big B for the area of the base, not the base. It's not the base, people. It's the area of the base. And you guys can see if we just find the area of the base, it's the same area of the base of the square prism. So it's just going to be 5 times 5. Now the height, you guys can see, of this pyramid is going to be 6. That's the height of the pyramid. Now let's just solve this. And I'm going to do a little razzle dazzle on you so we can do mental math here. You could take 1/3 of 25, that's going to give you a decimal. But you could just flip this around and take 1/3 of 6. Makes it a little bit easier. 1/3 of 6 is 2, isn't it? Times that 25. And that's going to give you 50. Okay, so what do? Do you add these or subtract these? Well, do you notice here, this is like looks kind of like a house. Those volumes we're going to add together because it's one big. If you fill this entire thing up with water, it will be more, not less, when you take these two values. So we're going to add these together, and your final answer is going to be 250 inches cubed. I'll put a little inches cubed here, too. We're going to add those together. How do you know when to add or subtract? Well, is this being taken away, or is this adding on? This is adding on to the total volume. So our answer here is going to be 250. And again, pretty simple. Just remember it's 1/3 area of the base times height when you have a pyramid. We're going to keep rolling. This one's a little bit tougher. Looks like a pencil, doesn't it? Like a pen. And if I said find the volume, how much could fill that up in cubic centimeters? Well, we'd start with, I always like to start with the prism. And this prism in this case is a cylinder. And a cylinder is basically like a prism because it has two bases. So volume equals area of the base times height. And you guys can see the area of the base is a circle. So it is always going to be pi r squared, something you got to remember. And the height here, so from this base to this base, from this circle to this circle, is 15. And then it's going to be 3.14 times the radius, which is 0.5 squared, times 15. So here, we're going to slow play this. We're going to take 0.5 squared first. And when you multiply, this is actually like a decimal, right? It's like a fraction. When you multiply two fractions together, the number actually gets smaller. It'll give you, that's like a half of a half. Half of a half is a fourth. And again, if you ever want to stop so you can take notes, you feel free to just pause this. That's perfectly fine. That's what it's kind of made for. And we're going to multiply 3.14 times the 0.25. And we're going to get 0.785 times the 15. We multiply this by 15. You're going to get 11.775. It's going to be centimeters cubed. I'm going to say don't round this. You don't want to round it. If it says to round, you want to round at the very end. You never want to round twice. If you round twice, it tends to throw off your answer. So we have that down. Now we have to find the volume of this cone, the cone there. So let's change that up. And you guys know the volume of any type of pyramid or cone is 1/3 the area of the base times the height. And here's the good news, guys. Don't you already have the area of the base? I'm going to circle that. Isn't the base here the same as this one here? Yeah, it's the same thing. So because of that, if we've already done the work, we could do it again if we wanted to, but we don't have to. We can just plug in the base. And then you always multiply that by the height. Well, it says the height here is 2 centimeters. Just remember, this is a cone. It's not a pyramid. Anytime it's a cone or a pyramid, I'm sorry, it's a cone, not a prism. And anytime that you have a cone or a pyramid, you multiply by 1/3. So we can use our calculator for this again, 0.785 times 2. And then I'm going to divide by 3. It's going to give me this crazy number, 0.523 repeating. And again, if I'm going a little too quick here, feel free to pause this so you can write this down. And the question is, do you add these together or do you subtract? Well, we're adding this cylinder plus whatever this is here. So we're going to add these together. And 11.775 plus 0.523333. And you should get, when you add these together, we should get 12.298333. And we're just going to round that. That 9 is going to bump that up. We're always going to round to the nearest tenth. So on your checkout problems, we're just going to round this to your nearest tenth. And we're going to get 12.3. And that's it. We take both of these, add them together to get that final one. I'm going to tell you right now, it just messed up again, just like the last video. So that means I have to cancel this out, and I got to figure out another story to tell you. That's my other story to tell you. So in my neighborhood, I don't know if you guys are doing this. It's kind of it's become commonplace around the United States of putting bears in windows. So when you go out for walks, like kids can look for that. So we started doing that, and I think for this next week, I'm going to hide the bears every single day, kind of like I did Echo the owl. I was telling my wife about that. So maybe hide the bears like in different parts of the trees if it's not like raining out. I think I'm going to do that. Well, the thing is, like, my house is like, it's not like we have like a big loop in our neighborhood. It's got one big loop, and my house is like right when you enter the group of houses. I forget what you call that. And because of that, I don't think a lot of kids walk by that, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to do it. And yeah, we'll go from there. I think I had one more I wanted to show you. Yeah, this is the last one I wanted to show you. It's kind of tough, looks a little difficult, but we're going to see how easy it is once you kind of write down the information that it gives you. It says a machinist drilled a conical hole, so like a cone-shaped hole into a cube of metal as shown. It says, so it's a cube. So we know that all the side lengths here are 8 centimeters. It says, what is the volume of the metal after the hole is drilled? It says, round your answer nearest tenth. So whenever you have a problem like this, and this goes for any type of math problem, I always like to label. You know, I know it's a cube, so that's 8 by 8 by 8. That also tells me that this length right here is also 8. And it also tells me that this height from top to bottom is also 8. So you're going to notice we're going to have a lot of 8s in our problem. So how do we solve this? Well, we have to find the volume of the cube, and we have to subtract out the volume of the cone. So it's actually a lot easier than it looks. I know it looks like a lot of 8s and a lot of craziness, but let's solve this. Let's say the volume equals, let's find the, I'm going to label this. This is going to be the cube. We're going to find the cube first. And it's going to be the volume of a cube, which is the area of the base times height. You could also use length times width times height. That also works. 8 times 8 times 8, because the base is 8 by 8 and the height is 8. Pretty simple. That's going to be 64 times 8. I'm going to try to do this in my head before I throw in a calculator. That's going to be times 32, 512. 512. Didn't sharp to get it right. Yeah, that's 512. I think it's always good before you throw in a calculator. Sometimes try to press yourself. Try to get yourself to do better. And, you know, press yourself to do better. I was, so I got my wife for her birthday. I got her, it's kind of for both of us, mainly for her, is I got her, it's not a Peloton. You guys see those commercials with those, like riding bikes. It's not one of those. It's the Nordic Track, which is like exactly the same. The Nordic Track just stole like the idea, and very similar. It is cheaper, and I've been told it's like very similar than the other one. So I got her that. I did one of those rides, and the instructors, I was like working out, and they're big on like positivity, which I kind of like. I liked it. So they always talk about, you know, like press yourself, kind of like sometimes I say to you guys, you know, try to, you know, push yourself to get better, try new things. And yeah, so it's pretty good. I like it. Okay, it's a cone. So we have to find 1/3 the area of the base times height. You notice that the shape of the base is a circle. So it is pi r squared times the height, which you guys know the height is going to be 8. All right, so who's super awesome can tell me right now the pi is 3.14, but the radius is not 8. Radius is not 8. Now the radius is from here to here. So if it was 8 across here, it's going to be 4. Very important. You guys put 4 there. and that's going to be 4 squared. Mr. Schreiber, get your head out of the way. Get your head out of the way. So we're going to find 1/3, 3.14 times 16 times the 8. Again, you always want to square first. And let's take 3.14. I don't mind if you use a calculator for this one. And you get 50.24 times the 8. So we can take 50.24 times 8, which is 401.92 divided by 3. Or you can multiply it by 1/3, and you're going to get this crazy number, 133.973 repeating. Now, what do you do with these two numbers, guys? We have the volume of the cube, right, which is easy, which is 512. Then we have the volume of the cone that you take out. So we have to take these two, and we have to subtract. We have to take away. Three repeating. And again, I don't mind if you use a calculator for this one, 512 minus 133.973. And we're going to round this to the nearest 10th, which actually comes out to a whole number. If you round this to the nearest 10th, it should be 378. And that is going to be, I believe, centimeters cubed. Again, the only difference with these problems, guys, is that we have to find two volumes. When you find the two volumes, you're going to either add them together or you're going to subtract. And guys, that's it. Those are the problems. Make sure you guys check out your checkout problems. Check out your checkout problems. Let me just say, do your checkout problems. Again, if you have questions, this is not an easy concept. It's not easy. I think it's easy to make mistakes on this one. So just let me know if you need extra help and come join me for a conference. I forgot to shout out someone, by the way. I'm going to shout out Uriah. Uriah came to the very first one. Appreciate it. Did a great job sharing. So yeah, come join us. Come talk about some math. We'll talk about some random other stuff. And I hope to see you then.